Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the very fabric of American identity. It's a topic that sparks absolutely endless debate. But what if the answer isn't actually in modern politics, but hidden away in ancient history? We're going to start with modern sociology to understand how we view ourselves today, and then trace those concepts back thousands of years into deep history. It's a journey that's going to completely reframe how you think about the societies that have called this land home.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the American identity puzzle, then cover the multiple traditions theory, flash back to the first Americans, examine early complex societies, look beyond the mainland, and finally discuss the first European arrivals.
Section 1. The American Identity Puzzle, a diverse society.
So what does it actually mean to be American in a society that's getting more diverse by the minute? You probably have your own personal definition, but Tufts University researcher Deborah J. Schildkraut wanted to look at the hard data. Her empirical research set out to analyze a really specific puzzle. Is the growing ethnic diversity in the U.S. actually changing the normative content of American identity? Basically, as the demographics of the country shift, do the fundamental rules of what we consider American shift right along with them?
Section 2. Multiple Traditions Theory, a complex framework.
In her study published in the Journal of Politics, Schildkraut tested something known as the multiple traditions theory. She really wanted to see if a multicultural America inherently creates a multi-creedal America, meaning a society guided by many different fundamental beliefs rather than just one. This theory suggests that American identity isn't just one neat, tidy thing. It's defined by a broad, complex, and honestly, sometimes contradictory set of norms. And you know what? The findings brilliantly confirmed this. Being American simply cannot be boiled down to a single, monolithic measure of Americanism.
When you stack up the idea of one single Americanism against a complex, multi-creedal America, the data speaks volumes. Schildkraut found that most Americans today actually share this highly complex view of the norms that make up American identity. And here's the truly fascinating part. They share this view regardless of their own ethnic or immigrant background. So, by our very sociological nature today, we are a multi-creedal society.
Section 3. The First Americans and Their Deep History.
To really wrap our heads around why this multi-creedal identity makes so much sense, we need to rewind the clock, like way back. This land has literally always hosted a massive, diverse tapestry of societies. Human migration kicked off a staggering 30,000 years ago when people from Eurasia followed game across the Beringia land bridge into present-day Alaska. By 10,000 BCE, Paleo-Indians were well established, hunting massive Ice Age megafauna like woolly mammoths. But as they adapted to changing climates, we start seeing incredible innovations. By 8000 BCE, there's the first farming in central Mexico. By 3000 BCE, they're growing corn in the valleys of Arizona and New Mexico and building early irrigation systems. Long before the first European ever made contact, these early inhabitants had diversified into hundreds of distinct, thriving cultural groups.
Section 4. Early complex societies and the rise of agriculture.
As folks shifted from foraging to actually farming the land, incredibly complex and diverse societies started popping up across the entire continent. A perfect example of this is the Mississippian culture. By the 12th century, they had built major urban centers, with the most prominent being Cahokia, right near modern-day St. Louis. This wasn't just some temporary camp. It was a sprawling, highly engineered, permanent city built around massive earthwork mounds.
Get this, at its peak in the 12th century, Cahokia had an estimated population of 20,000 people. To put that staggering number into perspective, that made Cahokia larger than the population of London at that exact same time. This was a major metropolis of the ancient world, completely teeming with activity.
And the centerpiece of this massive city, a 100-foot-tall earthwork called Monk's Mound that totally dominated the skyline. Cahokia featured a highly intricate society. We're talking bustling plazas, astronomical observatories, neighborhoods filled with artisans, and huge trade networks stretching all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. It even had a rigid class system that included slavery and human sacrifice, strongly influenced by advanced societies further south, like the Mayans. It was complex and multi-layered by absolutely any definition.
Meanwhile, totally different but equally mind-blowing societies were thriving elsewhere. Out in the southwest, the Anasazi built massive stone and adobe pueblos, with some structures featuring up to 800 rooms built directly into sheer cliff faces. Then contrast that with the West Coast. Indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest didn't rely on agriculture in the same way. Instead, their incredibly affluent societies were built around the abundant salmon populations. They established complex social traditions like the gift-giving potlatch feast, where leaders would redistribute immense wealth to build social prestige.
And over in the Northeast,
things were organized completely differently again. In the mid-15th century, 5 distinct tribes, the Oneida, Mohawk, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca, united to form the incredibly powerful Iroquois Confederacy. They were governed collaboratively by a group of 50 sachem chiefs. This was a highly structured, democratic political alliance that wielded immense regional power, waged strategic warfare, and maintained a uniquely cohesive cultural identity.
Section 5. Beyond the mainland, Puerto Rico and Hawaii.
Now, this deep diversity wasn't just contained to the continental U.S. We see similarly rich histories evolving in places like Puerto Rico and Hawaii. Puerto Rico has been settled for at least 4,000 years, but around the year 1000 CE, Arawak people arrived from South America, eventually evolving into the vibrant Taíno society, known for their masterful agriculture and seafaring. Halfway across the world, Tahitian explorers arrived in Hawaii around 1200 CE, navigating the vast Pacific just by the stars. They established an isolated, culturally rich civilization with intricate caste systems that remained separated from the rest of the world for another 6 centuries.
Section 6. European Arrivals, a Colliding World.
So it's into this already booming, highly populated, and intensely multicreedal hemisphere that Europeans began to arrive. The earliest recorded European mention actually comes from a medieval chronicler named Adam of Bremen around 1075, talking about Norse exploration in a place called Vinland. Centuries later, we get the more famous arrivals, the English at Jamestown in 1607 and the Pilgrims at Plymouth in 1620. And this brought massive, irreversible changes, new crops, livestock like horses and pigs, and drastically different cultural and political systems.
Tragically, though, this collision of worlds brought unimaginable devastation. Europeans brought over diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza. Because Native American populations had absolutely zero biological immunity to these new diseases, they suffered catastrophic epidemics. The loss of life was staggering, decimating indigenous populations, often before large-scale European settlement even began, and permanently disrupting the ancient, complex societies we were just talking about.
So bringing it all the way back to Deborah Schildkraut's sociological research, the pieces of the puzzle really start to snap together. When you zoom out and look at the sheer scale of the history we've just covered, the hundreds of distinct cultural groups, the varied political systems, the diverse ways of life, you can see exactly why modern American identity is so incredibly difficult to distill into a single, simple tradition. Her words perfectly capture the reality of a land that has been defined by a complex, often contradictory set of norms since human footprints first appeared on it.
Which brings us to a final thought. We talked so much today about the challenges of diversity, like multiple traditions are some brand new phenomenon we have to solve. But given this 30,000-year history of distinct societies, migrations, and blending cultures, maybe our complex, multiple traditions aren't a modern challenge at all. Maybe a multi-creedal identity is actually our most deeply rooted, historically accurate heritage. It makes you wonder, when we embrace our complex diversity today, are we simply acting in accordance with the oldest tradition this continent has ever known?